Because time is limited at church and you're not always dealing with professional players, sometimes you just can't fix it at the source. So today I'm going to show you the tricks that I use to resurrect drum sounds, or at least make them passable. I mean, I'm not a magician. Today I'm going to show you some tricks on how to deal with drum sounds that are less than desirable. And while I can put up with bad guitar tone or a crummy sounding piano, weak drums will sap the energy from your mix faster than Patrick Mahomes can scramble for the first down. Hey, if you're new here, my name's James, and I help church sound techs eliminate distractions in church audio. If you're passionate about making church sound great so that people can focus on Jesus, go ahead and hit subscribe and ding the little bell to get notified every time I post new content. The first problem we're going to deal with is inconsistent hits. And this comes from an amateur drummer that hasn't worked out the muscle memory to hit it the same way every time. The hits come in at different levels, they're not balanced, and they don't come in with the same tone. And it can be really hard to get that backbeat really consistent if the snare sound isn't really consistent. You don't want to be chasing your snare drum level around when you should really be riding your vocals instead. My solution for this is to put on a compressor with a fast attack time and a hard knee to keep the level as consistent as possible. The tone is still going to change, but at least you won't have to deal with the level changing so much. You can really compress this hard and squash it. You're just trying to keep that backbeat in the same spot. Problem number 2 is when drums ring out too long, or they're ringing sympathetically when another drum is hit. This can muddy up your mix, and it's really unpleasant. The real source of this problem is that the drum isn't dampened right or it was tuned funny. The solution is to put on a gate with a fast attack, but not too fast, and a medium to slow release. As you make the release time shorter, you'll get less and less of the ring on that drum. Solution number 2 is to use a narrow bandwidth EQ to notch out that one frequency that's ringing too long as it's not the critical frequency for when the drum is actually played right. Solution number 3 is to put a narrow boost on only the frequencies that you want to retain for the drum, leaving everything else down lower. So you can boost that one low frequency you want and everything else stays further down. The super cool kid fancy toy version of that is to use Wave's F6 or another dynamic EQ to essentially gate out that frequency until it's played and you want it for just long enough. You use downward expansion that only rises up when that tom is played and then ducks back down after it goes back down below the threshold. Problem number 3 is there's not enough crack when the drummer hits the drum. This could be on the kick drum or the snare, it doesn't really matter, the solution is the same. The source of the problem is either they're not whacking the drum hard enough, or they don't have the right beater on the kick pedal. The solution is a little trickier, but you can duplicate the channel and then gate the second one with a very fast attack and a really fast release. All you're looking for is that initial snap. By itself, it sounds pretty terrible, but mix that in with the original drum, and finally you have a transient again. Boosting between 2 and 5K, and even compressing that channel as well, can help bring it out even more. The next problem is not enough punch. The source is usually that it's tuned wrong or hit wrong. To solve this problem, again, duplicate the channel and then compress it with an attack time of about 20 milliseconds. Don't be afraid to compress this really hard and make it sound kind of funny by itself. Then mix this in with the original sound and you can get some punch back. Now the fun toy version of this is to use a multiband compressor or a dynamic EQ and set the attack time slow on the low band of the compressor. This lets just the initial hit through on those low frequencies and gives you that punchy feeling back again. On the flip side, you could use a frequency-specific upward expander so that after it crosses the threshold, that frequency level jumps up real quick and comes back down again. Again, you'll have to play with the attack and the release and the crossover point, but this can yield great results too. Now if you like using parallel processing, go ahead and mash that thumbs up for me. But if you haven't tried it yet, check out this video over here. The last problem that we're going to tackle today are drums with too little sustain. Sometimes they can be dampened too much so that they don't ring out long enough. And there are 3 ways that we can tackle this problem at the soundboard. The first solution is to compress with a very fast attack time and a pretty fast release. Small variations in the release time are going to change the way that that drum sustains. And again, this is a fine-tuning thing, and you have to listen carefully, but once you do, you're going to love this trick. The second solution is to put a very short reverb on the drums, maybe 250 milliseconds to 1 second, and use the low pass filter on it to keep it from being too bright, and compress it to get it to sustain just as much as you want it to. This can get you some texture options that might not be there otherwise, and the compression on here is a lot of fun. Solution number 3 is to use a parallel drum bus and put a really fast attack compressor on it. With this, you get to use a fader to decide how much sustain you want on the drums. Hey, if you love taking your church's sound team to the next level, I have a free guide for you. It's called How to Lead Your Church Sound Team, and you can find it through the link down in the description below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ding the little bell to get notified every time I post new content. I've got some other videos down here and down here for how to get your drums sounding great at the source. And remember, it's all about the low end, avoid the sound tech solo, and nobody leaves church humming the kick drum. We'll see you back here next time on Attaway Audio.